Arizona, November 1975. 7 men are driving home through a dark forest after a long day cutting timber.
Then, through the trees, they see a light. Not headlights, not the moon, not a fire.
Something is hovering above the ground. Glowing, silent, impossible.
One of the men gets out of the truck. His name is Travis Walton.
His friends shout for him to come back. But Travis walks closer.
Then, a beam of light hits him, and Travis Walton is gone.
For 5 days, police search the forest. His workmates are suspected of murder. His family waits, and then
A call comes from a payphone. Travis is alive, but what he says happened to him will become one of the most famous alien abduction cases ever recorded.
this is a ghost story.
A podcast about the strange, the unexplained, and the stories that stay with us.
I'm Kathryn.
And I'm Alison.
And I'm Andrew, the producer and researcher.
Tonight, we're heading into the forests of Arizona.
For the Travis Walton abduction case.
This is a ghost story.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to This is a Ghost Story. How are we both?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. But this one is a bit different for us, isn't it?
Yeah, this is more UFO than ghost. That's totally guilty on my part, by the way. I definitely love a good UFO story. We all know that. Yeah.
What a shock.
Yeah, I know, shock horror.
UFOs, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they'll take me back home one day. But yeah, it absolutely fits what we do, this story, because it's a witness-led story. It's frightening, and it's one of those cases where the what if really gets under your skin.
And it's not just one person involved.
Exactly, that's why this case has lasted. Whether people believe 6 other men were involved in the beginning of the story. They reported Travis missing. Police get involved, there were searches, there were polygraphs, there were accusations of murder. It became a missing person case before it became a famous UFO story.
And a lot of people will know the film Fire in the Sky.
Yes, but the film takes big liberties. The real claimed account is different, especially the inside the craft part. So tonight we're going to tell the case as carefully as we can. Then in the research section, we'll go through what's documented, what's disputed, and what sceptics have said.
So, for those who aren't familiar with this story, and I suppose those who are, brace yourselves.
This is a ghost story.
The forest.
On Wednesday, the 5th of November in 1975, a logging crew was working in the Apache-Sitgreaves National Forest near Herber, Arizona. The men were part of a timber thinning crew, and their job was hard, physical and repetitive. They cleared brush, they cut trees, they worked long days in remote forest.
The crew boss was Mike Rogers. With him that day were Travis Walton, Alan Dallas, Dwayne Smith, John Goulet, Kenneth Peterson and Steve Pierce. 7 men in total. By the evening, the light was fading. The crew packed up their tools and climbed into Roger's truck to head home.
The forest road was rough. The men were tired. And as the truck moved through the trees, they saw something ahead. A glow. Not on the road, not in the sky. Somewhere between the trees.
At first, it may have looked like a fire or a strange reflection. But as the truck got closer, the men saw that the light was coming from an object. A large object. Hovering.
According to witnesses, it was disc-shaped, metallic, bright. Some described it as yellowish orange, some as glowing. It was said to be hovering above the forest floor, below the tops of the trees, close enough to be terrifying.
Mike Rogers slowed the truck. The men stared, and then Travis Walton opened the door.
He stepped out. The others shouted for him to get back in, but Travis kept going, walking toward the object.
The craft seemed to react. It began to move or wobble. The light intensified, and then, suddenly, a beam or blast of light struck Travis.
The men said Travis was thrown backward. His body hit the ground, and for a few seconds no one moved. They thought he was dead.
Panic took over. Mike Rogers hit the accelerator. The truck tore away through the forest, the men shouting, terrified, convinced they had just seen their friend killed by something they could not explain.
The return to the clearing.
But fear soon turned into guilt. They had left Travis behind, so Rogers turned the truck around. They went back.
The forest was dark. The object was gone. And so was Travis.
They searched. They called his name. Nothing. No body. No footprints that explained it. No sign of struggle. And no Travis Walton.
Eventually the men went to report him missing. And this is where the story becomes even stranger. Because the police did not treat this as a UFO case. They treated it as a possible crime.
Suspected murder.
The Navajo County Sheriff's Office became involved. Sheriff Marlin Gillespie and Deputy Kenneth Copland were among the first officers connected with the investigation. And from the police point of view, the UFO story was not the obvious answer.
A young man was missing. His workmates claimed he had been struck by a beam from a flying object. But there was no body, no clear physical evidence, no easy explanation. So naturally, investigators wondered whether the men had harmed Travis and invented the story to cover it up.
Search parties were organised. The forest was checked. A helicopter was reportedly used during the search, but nothing was found. No Travis, no body, no evidence that he was hiding nearby.
For the crew, this must have been a nightmare. They were terrified of what they claimed to have seen. Then they were under suspicion for murder. And every time they told the truth as they understood it, it sounded impossible.
5 days missing.
Days passed. November 6th, November 7th, 8th, 9th, November 10th. Still no Travis.
The story began to spread. Newspapers picked it up. A man missing after a UFO sighting. A logging crew accused. A family waiting. And then late on the night of November 10th, in the early hours of November 11th, the phone rang.
Travis Walton was alive. He called his family from a payphone near Herb, Arizona. He sounded weak, confused, and frightened.
When family members found him, he was alive, but shaken. He'd been missing for 5 days. And when he began to describe what he remembered, the story moved from strange to terrifying.
Travis wakes up.
Travis said that after the beam struck him, he lost consciousness. When he woke up, he was lying on a table. At first, he thought he might be in a hospital. The room was bright, unfamiliar, clinical.
But then he saw them. Figures standing nearby. Not human. Small, pale, large heads, large eyes. He panicked.
Travis said he was in pain and disorientated. He felt threatened. He leapt from the table and lashed out. He shouted. He tried to defend himself.
The beings moved away, and Travis was left alone in this strange room, trying to understand where he was.
He said he found a doorway and moved through it. He entered another area. There was a chair. There were controls. There were lights. And eventually he encountered someone who looked human.
A man, or something that appeared to be a man, wearing a helmet. Travis tried to speak to him, but the figure did not answer.
According to Travis, the human-looking figure guided him out of that area and into another space. There, he claimed, he saw other human-looking beings. Then something was placed over his face. A mask. He lost consciousness again.
The roadside.
The next thing Travis remembered was waking up outside. Cold air, night, a road nearby. He looked up, and above him was the craft.
It rose, moved away, and disappeared.
Travis was weak, confused. He found his way to a payphone, and after 5 missing days, he called home.
That should have been the end of it. But really, it was the beginning. Because now, the police had a missing man who had returned. The crew had stuck to their story. And Travis Walton's account was about to become one of the most famous and most debated alien abduction cases in history.
This is a ghost story.
I don't even know where to begin with this one. That's terrifying.
That is just, yeah. I mean, the fact that he was so brave and, you know, he sees this light, you know, it's a UFO, it's unknown origin, you know, and then his workmates just up and leave him.
That's one of the most human parts of the whole case. People say, why would they leave? But if you genuinely believed your friend had just been struck dead by something impossible, then I guess the panic is believable, really, isn't it?
And you've got to give him something for going back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that took a lot of guts.
That was brave.
Yeah, and you know what?
Because who knows what you would have found as well, like, you know.
Well, they didn't find anything.
Exactly. Yeah, but they could have found something far worse, you know.
Which is even weirder.
They searched, you know, when they returned after fleeing. I know that doesn't prove anything alien happened, but it makes the behaviour more complicated than, I guess, they just ran away.
Yeah, and obviously the police are thinking that they've murdered him. That makes sense. That's more realistic, isn't it?
Yeah, oh no, totally, because I guess from a law enforcement point of view, the UFO claim would sound like a cover story, and I think any police officer, you know, down in Arizona is gonna not think twice about a bunch of guys that have lost their mate up in the forest and they're claiming a UFO's got him, and they're thinking, yeah, you've probably accidentally killed him, you know, but it does sound like a fabricated story from that point of view. You got a missing man,
especially back in the 70s, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, people, you know, especially, you know, policing back in the 70s, you know, I think in some parts they would have been looking for a scapegoat straight away if they were getting no evidence of anything. You know, you got a missing man, and then the world starts looking at it because of the story that starts kind of dripping out to the press. You know, 6 witnesses, no body, no clear evidence, and you know, you're investigating the people last seen with them, and nothing's turning up.
But why would you go to the police if you had killed him?
Yeah,
like, that's what I don't understand.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but then I guess, yeah, that's one of those, isn't it, where I guess if you can maybe convince the police and there's no evidence of a body, and this is what all 6 of you are saying that happened, even if it is the 70s and all a bit weird, you look at the evidence itself. I'd
be like, guys, what happens in the forest stays in the forest.
It's in Brokeback Mountain, Alison.
Oh.
A film I've still not seen yet.
I've never seen it. It looks supposed to be so good.
It is actually supposed to be so good.
Heath
Jake
Ledger.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, exactly.
Good
2
actors.
fabulous actors.
Yeah, maybe they should have been in Fire in the Sky.
To be honest, that does take me back to the days of Blockbuster when that would be on the trailers in the background. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember that.
Anyway.
Yeah, we all used to work at Blockbuster, and some of them trailers, they were interesting. But actually, we will talk about the film version briefly in a little bit, because there were some little differences.
So, guys, the film. Most people, well, I say most people, a lot of people out there will have watched the film. So they probably feel familiarised with the story. But, do they know the story? How does the film differ from actual events?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, because I used to have the film on VHS, an old ex-rental copy back in the day when I was younger. I've still got it now, got it on DVD, slightly more updated, but it came out before even the X-Files as well. Had Robert Patrick in it. I think it was it D.B. Sweeney that was in it as well?
Yeah.
Very good film. Very good horror story, really. You're seeing how people are looking at them, and you're seeing how the kind of press and media all kind of get wrapped up in it. But obviously the film version of the abduction, that part of it is definitely much more horror based. Travis himself has said the movie's onboard scenes were not accurate to his account, obviously, which we've told here. Now, if you've seen the film, it is very, very more horror-y and more scary, which I guess that they've done it to jazz it up a bit. They're all based on a true story tagline you see in films. It doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, but there is a basis there somewhere. Hollywood obviously want to make a movie that contains the truth to sell it, but not every minute of films like that are true. Not every minute of a true story is fascinating, but I would say this one is, though. Even if it was what happened on the craft as he described, I think that would have been interesting. But I just feel they wanted more of a horror angle. The scene on board the craft, it's very different and more disturbing in the movie. So, should we have some research then, ladies?
Let's have some research.
If we must.
If we must, yes. Right.
Research.
Woo! So, let's go through this carefully. The Travis Walton incident is said to have happened on the 5th of November 1975 in the Apache-Sitgreaves National Forest near Herbert, Arizona. Travis was 22 years old and working with a forestry crew led by Mike Rogers. Now, the other men usually named in the crew are Alan Dallas, Dwayne Smith, John Gillette, Kenneth Peterson, and Steve Pierce. So we know the core claim is this. Obviously, you ladies have told the story, but obviously the crew were going back home after work. They saw a glowing disc-like object near the road. Walton got out, approached it, got struck by a beam or flash of light, disappeared. Crew returned to the scene. He was gone. Now, from a police perspective, this obviously became a missing person investigation. Navajo County Sheriff Marlon Gillespie, Deputy Kenneth Copland, they were involved. Reports say officers searched the area and treated the crew as possible suspects, which is understandable because Walton had vanished and the UFO explanation was obviously extraordinary. The search reportedly included organised ground searches and later a helicopter. One account says nearly 50 people searched the Turkey Springs area on the 7th of November, but they found no sign of Walton or evidence of a violent struggle. Now, the polygraph issue is one of the biggest parts of the case and one of the messiest, which is part I do remember from the film. Now, the crew were questioned about whether they had harmed Walton. Arizona Department of Public Safety polygraph examiner C.E. Gilson reportedly found 5 of the 6 crew members were truthful, with Alan Dallas coming back inconclusive. But it is important to say that those tests were mainly focused on whether the crew had harmed Travis, not whether aliens existed. So their results were probably more to, did they harm him? Yes, no. Did they kill him? Yes, no. So I guess because he was alive, that probably would kind of coincide with that. Now, supporters of the case often present the polygraphs as a major reason to believe the witnesses. Skeptics argue polygraphs are unreliable, which is understandable. They can be badly administered and do not prove the extraordinary parts of the claim. Skeptical writers such as Philip J. Klass and Michael Shermer have argued that the case was likely a hoax or a product of deception or self-deception. There was also the issue of Travis Walton's own polygraph history. Some sources report that an early test arranged through UFO-related media contacts was failed, with examiner Jack McCarthy concluding Walton was being deceptive. Later supporters point to other tests which Walton passed, so the honest position is the polygraph record is mixed and cannot settle the case either way. Walton returned after roughly 5 days missing. He contacted family from a payphone near Heber, Arizona. Public summaries say he was disorientated and physically shaken. His later account described waking in a hospital-like room, seeing 3 short beings struggling or reacting defensively, then encountering human-looking figures and eventually blacking out again. He said his next memory was being near a road, seeing the craft depart overhead. A major cultural point: Walton's book, The Walton Experience, was published in 1978, and the story inspired the 1993 film Fire in the Sky, but the film changed the onboard experience dramatically because filmmakers apparently wanted a more intense cinematic abduction sequence. Now, the skeptical case. Skeptics point to several things. First, the crew's forestry contract. Rogers' crew had reportedly been behind schedule, and some skeptics suggest the incident may have provided an excuse for contract problems. This is an allegation, it's not proof. Second, the role of the National Enquirer. So Walton and the crew received attention from the tabloid press, of course, and sources report that the Enquirer awarded money connected with the case. Skeptics argue this created a financial publicity incentive, and supporters argue the men were already under suspicion and public pressure before any benefit appeared. Third, prior interest in UFOs. Some skeptical accounts claim Walton and members of his circle already had an interest in UFOs before the incident. That doesn't prove a hoax, but it does matter when examining possible influence or expectation. Fourth, the lack of physical evidence. There is no publicly accepted physical proof that an alien craft was present. The case rests on witness testimony and that only. Walton's disappearance, police involvement, and of course that disputed polygraph material. But the supportive case is also clear. Supporters say 6 men reported the initial sighting and stuck broadly to that story for decades. They say the men had little obvious reason to invite suspicion of murder. They point to the immediate police investigation, the genuine missing person search, and the fact that Walton did return after several days. This is why the case remains so famous. It has more structure than many abduction stories, multiple witnesses at the start, a missing person investigation, named law enforcement figures, press coverage, polygraphs, and decades of arguments. So, what do I think? I think the honest answer is the Travis Walton case has 2 layers. Layer 1, something did happen involving that logging crew, a report to the police, a missing man, and a very unusual story. That is all documented. Layer 2, what actually happened to Travis Walton during those missing days, that part is still contested. Was it alien abduction? Was it a hoax? Was it panic, misidentification, and a story that grew arms and legs? Or was there something in that forest that those men genuinely could not explain? That's why it still works as a story 50 years later, because even if you strip away the film, the fame, the arguments, and the UFO culture, you're still left with 7 men in a truck, a light in the trees, and one of them not coming home.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, whether you believe the alien part or not, that man was missing.
And the others had to go home and explain that they'd left him in the woods after seeing something impossible.
Yeah, that makes it so unsettling, especially when you're saying that to his family. It's not just a man says aliens took him. It starts as a group incident, then becomes a police investigation, then becomes an abduction claim, and it just leaves the door open for ridicule. And, in small towns like that, especially with a story that would have become that big, I don't think it would have been nice attention.
Yeah, I think the sceptical, points are fair though,
Yeah, they are. You can't ignore the Enquirer, the polygraph disputes, the money, the lack of physical evidence, but just because there isn't much physical evidence, doesn't mean it didn't happen, does it?
But if the men were lying, My goodness, they kept it going for a very long time.
Yeah, and I think that's why people still talk about it. Either it's one of the most extraordinary UFO cases ever reported, or it's one of the strangest and most successful hoaxes in paranormal history.
Either way, I think, it's a story that doesn't go away. It hasn't gone away, and it's still debated. People still talk about it.
Yeah, it is an incredible story. It's something that I watched, when I was younger. I enjoyed the film. I loved it. It was very creepy. Obviously, the film, like we said, it's mainly the abduction scene. When he's on the craft is very different. He wakes up on the craft in this like cocoon thing and then manages to break out. And then these horrible goblin-like things are chasing him down, and it's very freaky, very creepy. And then they drag him to some sort of like operating table. Very, very Hollywoodized. But
the film is, it leaves you very uncomfortable, let's say, but then once you've watched the film and you are left to your own thoughts, makes you a bit more uncomfortable, because if that happened, then what is out there and why are they coming for us? Ugh.
I don't fancy the film, if I'm honest.
Oh, it was a good film.
Was it?
Yeah, it's a good film. It's got Robert Patrick in it.
Oh.
Awesome.
Not long after
He's a good actor, I'll give him
Terminator
that.
2.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, another cracking film.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's obviously my view might be a little bit different to everyone else's. I remember the film. I loved it. And for me, you look at those guys, they're loggers, they're men's men. It's the
Tough.
1970s.
Yeah.
Can you imagine living in that town going, yeah, aliens took our mate.
Like, what's happened to those guys? Were they taking something? Or, you can imagine the ridicule from local folk around,
If you remember in a previous podcast, I did mention that perhaps the old mafia had taken him away for a while and dropped him off.
Yeah.
And the other guys were too scared to say it was the mafia, so they said, aliens.
Yeah, it could be the mafia. Other gangs are available.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
But those polygraph tests, Oh man, there's going to be a knock at the
Do
door.
you know what? For me,
God.
His head in my bed.
Yeah.
Under the covers. Go away. There's nobody home.
Yeah, it's. Do you know what though? It's for me. In little towns like that, when there starts to be this big press storm, the police want to shut it down. They don't want all this. It makes them look weak. Everyone's looking at them, and they've got no
Pressure.
answers. They've got nothing. You've seen time and time again, especially in the past, where in some of these towns. I'm not accusing any specific people of anything, but you might get some sheriffs that are like, we need to nip this in the bud. We need to do these
Close
guys
it down,
for
yeah.
murder. Even you might not have a body, but they'll say, well, you know what? They definitely know something that they're not saying, and to make a scapegoat, they might just have jailed them all, and they were going through hell by the looks of it. And the movie's very good.
Those guys.
Yeah, the movie's very good at depicting that, what they're going through, and then
Must have been soul destroying, to be honest, for everyone involved.
But you know what, Alison did raise a good point. There could have been something, because obviously they said that these guys, I think they were short on money at the time. The kind of film kind of does depict that. Obviously they were behind on their contracts. Who's to say that maybe, let's say, Travis or another one of them may have had a debt with someone, to help pay the bills, and maybe something happened. But obviously there's been no evidence of that, so we can't say that. So
I still think aliens. I think he was telling the truth.
I reckon they've made up a story. All of them together. Travis has camped out in the woods for 5 days.
But the polygraphs.
No, he didn't camp out in the woods though, because they searched the woods and they had helicopters and everything.
And he must have had medical
But
exams.
he's a logger. He knows all the little hidey holes.
He knows how to cut a tree down.
Yeah, and he knows the forest like the back of his hand.
Well, could have been the case, but yeah, it's for me. That's the biggest I told you so almost a little bit, isn't it? When he appears,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Boom, we didn't kill him, so there.
And I reckon polygraphs in the 70s were about as blooming trustworthy as maybe a pregnancy test in the 70s. 50-50.
50-50.
I think there's a lot of doubts over polygraphs, and I think because obviously they were used a lot on TV shows. Like in the UK here, we had a show called The Jeremy Kyle Show,
yes.
which was proper garbage off ill from work TV that you would watch, and you would watch it. And it was about, people warring families cheating and all sorts of
very
stuff.
Jerry Springer.
People with one
US
tooth
folks.
that have got like 6 women on the go, and you're thinking, how you've not even got a mouthful of teeth. But anyway, I digress. But there was a kind of scandal that came out of that, where they believed the polygraph was actually wrong and said that this guy did something, and the guy kind of said he was innocent, and I think it led to him taking his own life. So the show got pulled, and you're not seeing a lot of polygraphs now, are you, in shows? I think there is still a lot of skepticism. There's things that can affect the results. People that practice it say that it can be a tool that's used, but the police, I don't even think even use it anymore, do they?
I hope not.
No, I'm sure they've got other means anyway.
Where are the cookies, Alison? Tell me where the cookies are.
I don't know, man. Crumbs all around my face.
Says you're lying. But yeah, so obviously you think it's a story, Alison, that's been concocted. You think, what do you think the motive is? Is it money, financial?
Money, make it rain.
Make it rain. So, Kathryn, you believe it's something that happened? I
think it's abduction. I mean, I've seen interviews, in documentaries with Travis Walton himself. I believe it happened to him. I do. Seeing those interviews, the man he's stuck to that story. I feel it happened to him. But, that's just my take. That's my opinion. Everyone's,
Well, what do you ladies think I'm going to say?
You believe it was alien abduction.
I'm not saying it was alien abduction, but I'm saying it was alien abduction.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. This wasn't that long after the kind of first major alien abduction story. Probably about maybe 12 years before. Maybe I'm just thinking, obviously Betty and Barney Hill in the 60s in America. That was obviously a big story. Then a lot kind of came from that. So, maybe that was still fresh in people's heads. The fact that these guys seem to be interested in UFOs, which is a bit strange for a bunch of loggers up mountains.
I bet they've seen stuff as well.
Maybe.
Not obviously, I'm talking prior to this event. I bet they've seen things out in the woods that you just can't explain. And I bet they've seen or had seen lights in the sky before.
Maybe.
Yeah, I can't deny they haven't seen weird stuff in the sky because there's weird stuff going out on in space, if you know what I mean.
But then, I
Like
wonder
Star Wars.
what everybody else thinks. What do other people think out there? What do you guys think? Please do let us know.
Who's right and who's wrong?
Yeah.
And anyone out there, do you know Travis Walton personally? Have you interviewed him? I don't know. Please get in touch. Let us know.
Please do.
He does seem quite an interesting character. I think he does live in a log cabin up a mountain now.
Good on him. I mean, that's brave. Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Would you want to be in the woods?
But,
especially with all those Yetis.
Bigfoots. Yeah. Bigfoots. Yeah, there's all sorts in the forest out there. There's miles of nothing, isn't there? But
right.
Yeah, I believe it. And for me, the main thing was these guys were probably likely going to go to prison for manslaughter or something. Even if there was no body, I think they would have eventually come to the conclusion that they've killed him accidentally, and they're covering it up with this story. And personally, I just think that's a lot to go through, for a hoax, because it could easily unravel very quickly if somebody says the wrong thing and the stories don't match up. And I'll be honest with you, I know that there was some documentaries I've seen before, but I think when it comes to the polygraph stuff, it didn't say they're all totally lying either. And that's the thing. So obviously there's the disputed one with Travis himself, but you can get ones that aren't, sometimes you do get the odd one that just isn't right. And I'm dumbing down on that now. Dumbing down, is that the word?
Right.
Doubling down.
I think we
Doubling
need to.
down.
I think we need to tell everyone
Aliens.
what's going on in the next podcast.
Yeah, I think we better do.
Let's
haven't
do
we?
it.
I've been talking far too long.
These
Load of
folks are
guff.
gonna. These folks are gonna need a break.
Next time on This Is a Ghost Story.
A family moves into a new house, hoping for a fresh start. Instead, they discover they may not be alone.
A young girl sees an elderly man standing silently at the top of the stairs. Every night, her bedroom door opens by itself, and something unseen waits in the darkness.
As the weeks pass, the strange events grow bolder. Doors slam, lights flicker, an unexplained smell fills the house, and one ordinary family begins asking an impossible question. Who else is living there?
It's a story of fear, of mystery, and a house that may never have been truly empty.
Join us next time for Charlotte's chilling account, The House on Gabalfa Avenue.
Sleep well. Thank you for listening to another episode of This Is a Ghost Story.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are absolutely everywhere now. We are now on YouTube. So just search This Is a Ghost Story, all one word, to find us on there.
So we are on Twitter or X at A Ghost Story Pod.
We're on Facebook. This is a Ghost Story.
And Instagram, This Is a Ghost Story, all one word.
Or you can find us on TikTok at this.is.a.ghost.story.
Please leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And remember, if you have a paranormal experience that you would like us to read on the show,
please email us at thisisaghoststory@icloud.com.
we'll see you next time.
This is a ghost story. Sweet dreams.
Suspected murder. Oh, I'll say that again. I went murder.
Murder.
You have to, you're Scottish.